transparency, which we've kind of hit on how we can make transparency a little better is by continuing to do what we're doing and leaving items available for the public prior to the meeting. You know, and one of the other things, the reason I put this on here is because I wanted the board members to say what their thoughts of transparency were. You know, one of the things that we talked about in our last meeting is how, you know, we should all be treated equal, and that was part of the things that we all approved and said that's how we are going to go moving forward. You know, one of the sticking points on that we had before was issues where we have pressure groups making statements and having private meetings with some of the board members and not all of the board members. And the question is in a matter of transparency, should all board members know about it? So with that being stated, I mean, what is the thought?
I think we came up with some agreements that we all.
Well, that was actually the sticking point. That was not the agreement. That was the one item that we didn't agree on.
Is it in the agreement? We have a board member, a board agreement that we have.
No, that was the one that was pulled out that we didn't want to put in.
So we have a tentative agreement with all the points we agree on, correct? The items we did not agree on, we pulled out.
Okay, right.
So are we rehashing?
Yeah, I
the
said
agreement?
no, not the agreement. I mean, we're talking about the points that were the sticking point as far as what, you know, to me, equality is that we would all know, right? One know, all know. That was one of the things. One gets information, all get information, right?
Correct.
So it's a matter of building trust with our board, okay?
And a community.
And the community. Well, internally first, so we can show the community that we are acting that way. So the question is, if board members are having private meetings that the rest of the board members don't know about and being influenced by these other groups, these pressure groups, is it important that the other board members know about it or not? In a matter of transparency and openness and building trust.
Why don't you tell me?
Well, I think it is important.
And how do you enforce that?
So we enforce anything.
That's the problem.
Well, no, do you make it transparent when it's not? That's the question. So in other words, let's say a community member comes up to me and says, hey, I was at a meeting that two other board members held, and they talked about this, this, and that. Am I supposed to then go out in a matter of transparency and say, here's what happened with other board members, they met with this, and that's transparent to me, isn't it? That's transparency.
But you know what, I mean, Dave, on the other hand, I think it's the same thing as, I heard from someone the other day, oh, I heard we're not bringing any teachers back this year, but we're bringing them back next year. Well, what are people being told? Because I might have missed something.
Well,
And then
there's a difference
conversation.
between rumor, though, and actually meetings that are taking place.
But obviously, there's
You
a
mean like someone was
conversation
getting
taking
phone calls
place between
about
someone and a,
information that was in closed session and they knew exactly what was discussed and I mean, we could go all day with this, come on.
I don't quite understand. No.
What you're alluding to is if one or two of us meet with constituents, those board members are doing something wrong. And that's, I mean, this is America, we can do that. Okay, and if some board members wanted to tell others, fine, but there's no way to enforce it from both sides.
Well, I think the issue is not enforcement. As a board, as individual board members, that we're making a commitment to the board that we're going to be engaging in full disclosure. And that's just a question. And it's not a question of how can you enforce it or whether it's constitutional or what. It's just, how do you feel about keeping fellow board members informed of what you're doing as a board member? That's the issue. And I say keep them fully informed.
So putting an agenda in here, calling it transparency with no background information, and when I asked what the item was about, you guys were telling me it's about the agenda.
I don't know who you guys are.
Well, okay, I have it in an email that says it's about an agenda, and here you're trying to say, well, we couldn't agree on this, but we have an agreement, but the stuff we pulled out.
I brought up that I would be bringing this up as an agenda item.
Okay, then let's talk about everything in that agreement that we talked about in full session, right here and right now then.
Al, we already approved everything but
Then
this
why are we
one item.
rehashing something that we didn't put in the agreement?
Because I said we would talk about it at a future meeting. Al, I don't know what I'm not saying here. I said we would talk about it at a future meeting, everybody said, okay, here it is, it's a future meeting.
Does your
I
computer
put it
show
down.
us?
No, it doesn't.
I don't even see the
There's
copy of our
nothing in
agreement
here.
on here, why is that?
Yeah,
I'd like to
I
review it.
So you wanna talk about the things that we
Thank you.
agreed
We're
on,
gonna
and
talk
already-
about the board agreement, you should have it attached.
and we
can
already
go through
approved
it.
last time, that's what you wanted
We
to
just
talk
said we didn't
Just
approve
asking
it.
you.
This is the one sticking point that we didn't.
How about
Where's the
transparency
agreement?
and agenda item?
We don't have the agreement.
So you would want to see that on the next, we'll talk about
I
that.
want the entire agreement. If you're gonna pick one thing that 7 board members couldn't agree upon and then make it as.
But you understand that it was that 7 board members didn't agree upon it. So I am pointing that out, that one issue that you just agreed, we all didn't agree on.
But here we are in a meeting, we had no inclination.
You wanted to
what we were
have, you
talking
want to
about.
discuss our board agreement in open session, I have no problem with
We did
that.
that
Well, let's
last-
put it on
No,
there,
we
discuss the whole
didn't.
thing, I have no
Right.
problem with that.
We already talked about that at the last meeting.
In the
Talk about
closed
what the
session.
last
Pieces
meeting,
that we
I put it
did
on
agree
there,
on.
I don't remember
The
that.
pieces we did agree on. I can go back and I can point out which one.
I'm saying, if you want to discuss our board agreement, I have no problem, let's put it on there, we can go through it, make some sense of it. Because as I remember,
Did that
we
last
modified several of them, and I'd like to be clear on that. Should we have
I
clarity
haven't
here?
seen the final product.
Those were, first of all, those were all on the last meeting, and I'll go back and I'll point out where it was again, because we already talked about all those. This was the one item that you just indicated and agreed to, that the 7 of us did not agree on. That is why it appeared here, okay?
But then here we are at a meeting, you're making it as if 1 or 2 people are hiding things from everybody else. There's no way to enforce what everybody else is doing.
It's not an issue of enforcement, it's just an issue of.
Okay.
It's how we're gonna treat each other.
Just a second.
That's it.
Let's use this as an example. The agenda item says transparency. I sent an email, I said, give me a little background information, what we're discussing here, and I was told it was about the agenda.
That's true.
No, the agenda item is.
I have
the
the
one-
email here.
The one that you had here, the agenda process.
No.
I sent that email. The email I sent you?
Yes.
Yes, that was my understanding.
So here you're talking about something we just discussed in closed session, and you want to point out something that we would not agree to as a board. And I mean, I feel like I'm being sandbagged here.
First of all, there's 2 items on the agenda. There's 2 items on the agenda. One was the item that you wanted, and the other was transparency.
Dave, all it says is transparency, nothing else.
So we're talking
Come
about.
on, man, this is
what
not fair,
transparency
come on,
is.
what are you trying to do here, Dave, come on? I mean, this is
It's
like
about what
a-
transparency is. Mr. Lowry made a point, and the question is are we going to show the consideration that I think should be shown and indicate when we're having these types of
Then
meetings?
let's
And I
rehash
think
the
it's
entire
important.
agreement, and I'll be glad to do it here in public.
We already went through everything
No,
else
then
but
why
this
are we
last time.
rehashing it?
We went through everything but this the last time now. I keep saying that, but for some reason you're not hearing
We
that.
went through the whole agreement, we all, as a board, agreed to pull that out.
And talk about it at a future, as a future agenda item.
Put it on the next agenda,
With
the whole agreement.
some
And I
background,
would-
there, we can discuss it, no problem there, right? Not like this, we should
I
be
have no
clear,
problem.
we can all be
We already
prepared.
talked about it. We already talked
Then
about all
why-
the other stuff.
Then
with
it
the
should,
exception of
then it
this.
should have said that we're gonna go back and talk about the agreement and the parts that we didn't agree on and discuss it at this meeting instead of something that just says discussion, transparency.
Well, what is transparency? That's-
Transparency, would be, tell us what we're gonna be talking
Everybody talks,
about.
here's the thing, everybody talks about transparency, oh, well, let's be transparent, but nobody has a definition on what it means. To me, private meetings like that is not transparency.
Then put private meetings on the agenda and we'll discuss it.
Okay, so the next agenda item will be private meetings, so we can talk about that.
No, put the entire agreement out, don't pull one thing.
Please.
Put the
On the
entire
18th.
agreement out.
On the 18th.
And there's some other things in there I didn't really like either, but I'd like to talk, hash them through too.
August 21st? Okay. Yeah, all the documents are in the August 21st one that we've already talked, that's what I'm saying, we've already talked
But
about
Dave-
all that other stuff.
It says transparency, nothing else, nothing else.
And Al, I said, when we were in closed session, I said I would be adding this to a future meeting, you know
Dave,
what it's
you're
about.
missing
Well,
the point.
well, we
You're
do
missing
have
the
what's
point
this.
there. If you wanted to discuss that, you should have told us we're gonna be talking about that.
And
I
I
would have brought the
didn't.
agreement with me, I would have brought my notes, and I would have discussed it.
Al, the agreement that we put forth was put forth on the
Dave, you're missing
21st.
the point. All it says is
Missing the point.
transparency.
Yeah, the one item that I said I would be putting on the agenda at a future time, which I did. Whatever. Thank you.
So from transparency, I'm supposed to understand that we're gonna talk about something on our agreement that we met.
Yeah, right, said I would be doing exactly. Is there anything else? So we'll be adding this as an agenda item with, again, the material from the 21st, and
The
bringing
entire
this up
agreement.
again. The entire agreement and the meetings, yes. The private meetings, yes. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district, determine its validity 5 IL CS 120/2C1. The Board of Education may anticipate action as a result of closed session. I need a motion.
So moved.